Welcome back, everybody, to the James and Dames podcast. We're going to go over free agency, specifically in recent memory, because there's been a lot of, mm, you know, big signings from, a lot of quarterback positions specifically, or at least a few of them. Then there's a lot of other movement going around. I think we kind of start with the biggest name with the most money he's made for
Yeah.
4 years now.
Yeah. We'll start with we're gonna go position by position and go through. So obviously starting at quarterback. Quarterback, there wasn't a whole lot going on. The biggest name was surprisingly because there's even less quarterbacks in free agency this year than there was last year. And last year was pretty dry. Kirk Cousins, who was, he was rumored to go one of two places, and he went to one of those two places. It was Minnesota or Atlanta. Signed a 4-year, $180 million deal with the Falcons, which I don't think the Vikings had any chance of really keeping that with what they're trying to do. They'll have a potential out after 3 years. And he'll be a cap hit of $25 million his first year. So, also $100 million guaranteed. So,
It's a lot of money.
ludicrous contract.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good agent because I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't know. I wouldn't say 180 over 4 years worth, especially at his age at 35. So good for him. I think it's a solid. I think it's a good acquisition for the Falcons. I think he might be a little overpaid, but he could turn out to be worth it. You don't need a top 5 quarterback if you're the Falcons. You need a competent head coach and a quarterback who can use your weapons. And so, I think Kirk Cousins is that. You have to see if Raheem Morris, is the coach you're looking for.
Yeah.
But it's a solid move. Good for both sides, I'd say.
But there are some names I do want to just throw out there right now. Minshew to Las Vegas, $25 million.
I don't think he starts though.
No, he's not going to start though.
But he's a good backup to have.
Let's see here. Darnold is going to Minnesota, only for 1 year deal.
Yeah, I think that kind of clears up that they're looking for a young quarterback. They're going to look at the draft. Drew Lock to the Giants for $5 million. I
Yes,
think
Drew
is
Lock to
a
the
solid
Giants.
pick,
Winston to the Browns.
particularly because he has said that he believes he's still a starting quarterback. So going somewhere where the starting quarterback has not played a bunch, I think is pretty interesting.
Pretty good. And then Garoppolo to the Rams.
I don't.
He's not.
He's going to be a backup, I think,
Oh, for sure.
the rest of his career.
That's why I'm just like.
Josh Dobbs to the 49ers. And then I think the most interesting is the fact that this is worth, and the reasoning makes sense, but Russell Wilson getting the smallest quarterback contract, it's obviously because he's still going to be getting paid from the Broncos for being released because he's worth dead cap.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to get paid from them, and that makes it easy for him to get. It makes him more likely to just accept less money for a chance to play. Only getting paid $1.2 million to play on a 1-year deal with the Steelers.
Yeah.
But and then you're looking at names who are yet to sign. The only one that's kind of interesting is Ryan Tannehill. But at the end of the day, it's like the only blockbuster name is Kirk Cousins to the Falcons, and it's interesting, especially with him opting to change his number to 18, which I thought was kind of weird. But obviously wasn't going to take Kyle Pitts' number. The rumor that Kyle Pitts would switch, I was like, no. Going on to running backs, this was the juicy position. This was the one I was excited for
Good.
all offseason, and it did not go at all how I thought it would go. The only one that I could have expected the move that happened was Tony Pollard to the Titans for $21 million over 3 years. Solid deal. That's the only one I was like, oh yeah, That makes sense. I mean, Josh Jacobs got the biggest bag. He signed with the Packers for 4 years. This came very surprisingly. 'Cause I was not expecting that. I did not think the Packers were looking for a running back.
Well, they kind of lost and then gained one, so
They released Aaron Jones, who
yeah.
he signed with the Vikings, which was really
I thought that
funny.
was funny.
It was really funny, but also at the same time, I was like, why?
But also, you had Saquon Barkley go from the Giants to the Eagles.
That one
So-
I hated that one so much.
Why?
I did not want him on the Eagles. Him signing with the Eagles, I was like, no. It's not even like I don't want the Eagles to be good. It's not I want bad for Saquon Barkley. I was like, there's so many interesting teams you could go to. Why the Eagles? Because now the Eagles are just going to
They're
continue.
reloading now.
They're going to have another super team. And I'm like, go somewhere that would be more interesting.
Yeah, but they also need to fix their coaching scheme. Though. That's
They
another
need
issue.
they need to address
But-
offensive coaching. But Saquon getting a 3-year, $37.75 million. He got paid. He's averaging to $12.5 million, and he's got $26 million guaranteed, which is the biggest guaranteed contract by a running back. That's kind of what they were looking for, was someone who kind of went above franchise tag money, who to exceed $10 million, because most running backs were not worth $10 million.
Oh,
And so this is sort of breaking that. Him and Josh Jacobs, I believe, were the only ones to break that. They're the only ones to break that $10 million a year number. So good for them. I'm proud of them.
DeAndre Swift to Chicago makes sense because they need a running back there.
They did. That was just an interesting one to get.
Yeah.
Especially, 3 years, $24 million. I mean, it's not a lot, but
It's something.
he does provide something that like Tony Pollard doesn't, which is size. Tony Pollard is a great elusive back, but he doesn't have the size that Swift does. So, because he was the first one signed in free agency, it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I don't know, but
There are two more running backs who I think are really big names. Singletary to the Giants,
Singletary to the Giants.
which makes sense because to fill the void with Barkley leaving.
Yeah.
But then the biggest one to you, Derrick Henry to the Ravens.
I signed him for a 2-year, $16 million. I'm so concerned that he's not, because the last couple of years he wasn't great, and I'm hoping that's kind of
terrible. He also had a terrible scheme when it came to running.
yeah. I don't know.
It wasn't him.
It'll be interesting because I think he definitely has the potential. Like, he's one of the few running backs who he gets to 30 and you're like, he still could be good. It'll be interesting. I think he's definitely going to be a threat. I mean, that's the whole thing with the Titans in the past couple of years is you go against the Titans, you game plan to stop the run, and that's your win or lose is can you stop the run. With our offense, with the Ravens offense turning into what it did last year, having a true number one, which is what we're hoping he can be, that it'd be great to have him. I'm concerned because he's not been as impressive the past couple of years. A couple other guys that I want to address. Austin Eckler to the Commanders on a small 2-year, $8.3 million deal.
It's going to look weird with him being in a different uniform.
Gus Edwards to the Chargers as a replacement for Austin Eckler. That'll be interesting. 2 years, $6.5 million. Recently, as of, was it today or yesterday? Cordell Patterson signing with the Steelers. He didn't do much the past year or two, but he's a pretty good running back with a strong receiving threat, and he's a really good return man.
He is. I don't know. It's just, how old is he? He's not
33.
Okay, he's getting.
He's up there in age.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not
But-
gonna last very long.
I mean, it's a 2-year deal. I think if he's worth, even if he's just a return man, he's a good return man. I mean, he's up there as far as he's getting up there with Devin Hester as far as return man.
Oh yeah.
So that's even if he's that's a great thing to have, especially with the new rule change with kickoffs. So Raiders signing Alexander Madison. That's not for much. 1 year, $2 million. Obviously, Zach Moss to the Bengals for that 2 year, $8 million. There were some running back contracts. It was an interesting position to kind of watch. There's still some guys available. Zeke, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Boston Scott, Damian Harris. Actually, Damian Harris just announced retirement, I think.
Yeah, I think.
But Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Kareem Hunt, Rashad Penny. There's still a lot of guys available too, and it's already one of the most captivating positions. Going on to receiver though.
There's only a few big ones though.
Yeah, this one has a lot of question marks because I don't think any of these guys. I think the reason they stayed is they're not sure if they were worth really the value.
Ridley to the Titans. I guess that makes sense in the long run, especially with their recent acquisitions. However,
The price
Ridley,
they paid?
yeah, it depends on how they're going to use him.
I think he's a good acquisition with DeAndre Hopkins there. He's a great number 2 receiver. The Jaguars didn't use him as a number 2 receiver. They used him as a number 1, which kind of proved it to be a struggle because he just didn't get the ball as much as you'd hope. But
yeah.
that's the point of having a number 2 is you want your number 1 to take all the attention and your number 2 kind of just takes advantage of that. And I think him paired with DeAndre Hopkins could be very scary. So I think it's a good acquisition. I think Ridley still has that potential to be really good in the right scheme. The Falcons getting Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, that's not bad.
He's another number 2. I mean, I think most of these guys are 2, 3. No one here is a number 1 receiver.
No, that's another thing. That's why I thought this was a little underwhelming this year. Because
But
there hasn't been any wide receivers moving.
you do got some really good guys coming in through the draft, so there'll be some receivers coming in. 3 years, $39 million. I mean, it's a little much. I don't. It's not too much, but
It's a lot.
yeah, it's a solid amount for someone. You just hope he can live up to that. He was pretty solid in Chicago. There was a bit where he was their best receiver, but that also didn't mean too much.
Gabe Davis replaced Calvin Ridley. Not replaced, but
Pretty much
much
replaced.
replaced.
You're taking a number 2 receiver and replacing with a number 2 receiver.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley had better short game,
Yes, he definitely did.
but
He's still a solid option.
Davis is a very good downfield threat. You do get 5 years younger,
Yes.
is what you're getting there, and you're paying less, which is the good move for Jacksonville. He just is not a number 1, I don't think,
No.
because he's kind of one-dimensional. The thing that I applaud them for doing is getting someone who kind of can help play with Trevor's field is stretching the field. Calvin Ridley condensed the field, and that works for some quarterbacks, but that's not
for Lawrence.
Not for Lawrence.
I definitely think they probably are. It's just taking a bit of time. We don't know exactly who they're looking for yet.
maybe a receiver who's still looking to be traded.
I don't know.
Who could?
Anyways, Curtis Samuel to Buffalo. I mean, makes sense. They're trying to cut off some cap space, get somebody cheaper.
Yeah, I mean,
He's also a little bit older though, but he's not.
they're trying to reload while keeping. Well, they had to cut a lot of players to get to the cap limit. So, $15 million. They're for 3 years, $24 million. They're saving $15 million by taking Curtis over Gabe Davis. First of all, longevity is better. Curtis Samuel did pretty well at Washington, but
Yeah, for how little they did there, he did.
yeah, they had a really good receiving core. So, and he was a part of that. So that's good for them. So it's a solid acquisition. If they keep Stephon Diggs, he'll be a solid number 2. He's definitely going to contribute. Mike Williams, yeah, this was the other half of that. Chargers kind of just cleaning out their receiver room. The Jets signing Williams for a 1 year, $10 million deal. I think it's a great.
It's a good move.
It's a 1 year deal. If he's injured, it kind of sucks cap wise, but
Mm-hmm.
you're actually gonna have receiver threats. You have a running back. Kind of scary.
Just a little bit.
If Aaron Rodgers can play up to what he was,
Supposed to do.
yeah, then it's like that could turn out to be really good for them. Marquise Brown leaving Arizona for Kansas City, only paying $7 million, so that's kind of
I don't see the hype about Marquise Brown.
he's pretty good. He didn't really fit on the Ravens for what they were doing, but like he kind of fit with that Cardinals. That's kind of the receiver room that he kind of fits with. He's a good deep threat. Has some questions with his hands, but I mean for KC, especially how only $7 million and a year, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
He's got that deep threat. That's kind of what they've been missing. Any other team, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it's the Chiefs, and the Chiefs know how to use receivers. Steelers getting Van Jefferson for very cheap, but that's going to be their new number 2,
I guess.
and they're only paying like $1 million for him. So they're getting him real cheap. It's not as glorious as the running back position, but there's still some guys available for teams who are still looking to fill some holes. I think they might. Those guys might wait until after the draft to get signed because it'll be. Some people are looking for the draft to get some players. So if they don't get what they want, that's probably where you'll see those guys go. On to tight end, Colby Parkinson, who I'm not.
It's the biggest name, or not the biggest name, but like the biggest contract. But
Yeah, he went to the Rams. 3 years, $22.5 million. Who else moved around? A lot of Seattle's tight ends were up for a new contract. Gerald Everett from the Chargers signing a 2-year deal for $12 million with the Bears. I think that's solid because Everett was actually pretty good.
Everett was decent. I had him on my fantasy team 2 years ago, but
Yep. Gesicki to the Bengals, who finally get a tight end. They get him for cheap too.
they got cheap.
Gesicki was good in Miami. I think his value dropped off at New England. There's Irv Smith to the Chiefs. I don't know. I know more, I guess, about Irv Smith than maybe most people. Or I won't say I know more, but I follow him a little bit more. So him going to the Chiefs will be interesting. He could honestly be a replacement for Kelsey if he leaves. He's not going to be Kelsey level, but
No,
he can
but
be
he's
good.
Definitely a
He's
backup.
a good backup. I don't know. Hayden Hurst, I guess, to the Chargers. Looks like he's going to be their starter. Unless, again, because we have no idea what the Chargers are doing, they could go Brock Bowers at 5.
They could.
They're a wild card. New GM, new head coach. You really don't know what they're doing. Although they did Chargers also got Will Dissly, so they'll probably stick with Will Dissly. 3 years, $14 million.
Not a whole lot of tight end names going around right now.
Moving on to the O-line.
Hunt was the biggest one. The
Biggest
100 million,
contract, yeah.
5 years.
Which I think is a good pickup for the Panthers. Again, the amount they're paying him might be questionable, but they're making moves at least. They also picked up Damian Lewis for $53 million over 4 years, so they're shoring up that inside lineman. That it'll give us more chance to kind of judge Bryce Young this year, I think. Jonah Jackson going to the Rams.
Yeah.
3 years, $51 million. So he's getting paid.
He's getting paid. I don't see.
Cushenberry to the Titans. Jonah Williams to the Cardinals, and that's 4 years, 50 for Cushenberry, and 2 years, 30 for Jonah Williams. Aaron Brewer is a solid center for the Dolphins.
Tyron Smith to the Jets.
Right.
I forgot.
That
to,
is-
There was somebody that I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
Tyron Smith.
Only for $6.5 million too.
That's a steal.
Absolutely. You got your blindside quarterback or blindside tackle for your quarterback. Jets actually taking seriously going to protect Aaron Rodgers. Also getting John Simpson for 2 years, $12 million. Trenton Brown signing with the Bengals for 4.75 million, kind of building up their O line, especially at the tackle position. Tyler Biadasz going to the Commanders for 3 years, 29.25 million, and John Runyon to the Giants for 3 year, 30 million deal. Most people don't pay too much attention to the O line, so people might not know those names. But Christian Wilkins to the Raiders, I think, is a really good acquisition. He might be
Especially
actually
with
Max Crosby,
yeah. That's gonna be a
and
dangerous fit.
especially if Tyree Wilson comes into his own at all, they'll have like a really good D line. Other names: Jonathan Grenard to the Vikings.
Daniil Hunter to Houston. Yeah, I'm surprised he moved. Not gonna lie, but Houston of all places, Houston's gonna be
Lining him up
Scary.
opposite of Will Anderson's going to be.
That's
They're going to have a solid. They're going to have an improved defense. I'm not surprised that he moved because it seemed like they were ready to move on from him.
Patrick Queen to Pittsburgh. Makes sense. They need some help on defense, just a little bit, but
I think he'll do really well there. I'm very bummed to see him go because
he's a good fit for Baltimore. As well.
he was good. He had some years struggling, but they finally figured out how to use him this year, pairing him with Roquan. So seeing him go, and especially seeing him go to Pittsburgh, is kind of painful. As a fan, it's like, why does it have to be the Steelers? And I'm not like everyone else who's like, so many traders, and it's
No.
the media sides.
The Steelers, they might be decent next year, but I don't think they're Super Bowl caliber yet. They're definitely going to make a push, but they're not going to be that good. We say that to a lot of teams. I've noticed is that we say like, oh, this team's going to be really good this year, and then they either fall flat on their face, or they keep the expectations. They don't really go beyond. So I don't know.
I mean, it comes down to coaching.
It really does come
That's
down to
what's been the issue the past couple of years is the teams that are supposed to do good that don't have been poorly coached.
Yeah,
So-
or there's just not enough chemistry between the players. That's another issue.
Yeah, but chemistry is hard to read. You can view how well someone has done, but chemistry is one of those things that you can't read until they actually get there.
Let's see here. Carter Johnson went back to Philadelphia for 3 years.
Finally he got the deal, I think, similar. Actually, that might be exactly what he was offered last offseason. Because the story there is last offseason, he was offered, I think, something similar. It actually might have been.
A little bit more.
It might have been a little bit more. But he thought he was worth more, tested free agency, and the market wasn't there for it. So he signed a 1-year deal with the Lions. So he's going back. Not too surprising.
No. Darnell Savage to Jacksonville.
Darnell Savage, yeah, that one was. I mean, that's a solid pickup. He's a pretty solid safety. In addition, Eric Armstead also to Jacksonville for 3 years, $43.5 million.
Clowney left Baltimore to Carolina. I think that's very recent too.
He got a decent amount of money. Good for him. I didn't think we were gonna keep him around. He was kind of just another depth edge, and he kind of just played well. So we'll see if he does anything in Carolina. I'm glad he got his value up enough to get a deal like that. Xavier McKinney
Yes.
signing with the Green Bay Packers. That is huge for the Packers. 4 years, $67 million. The Packers were a team that really needed a safety. Even going into this last year, they were kind of weak there, and it's a really he's probably the best safety out of this free agency class. So it's a big move for them.
Chase Young going to New Orleans. I guess for 1 year deal, yeah. However, I do poke fun at Chase Young because he's like, they have such a great winning culture there. No, they don't. They haven't won anything significant in so long.
Not since Sean Payton and Drew Brees left. They've been kind of mediocre. I think he could do well there. The issue with that is the reason why he wasn't, I think a large reason why he wasn't getting contracts or offers is he had a neck injury that he needs to go undergo surgery.
I believe so.
And he should be back for the regular season. He might miss some training camp though.
Yeah, so he might be a little bit out of practice, but he should be able to make pretty much all of the season. But
yeah, he should be back for this
season. He's
going
to be a little rough coming into this season.
A neck injury like that. I mean, it makes sense. It'll be interesting to see how he does. I think that's a place where he could kind of show off his talent a little bit more, especially because he should have
He's a great player. It's just
injuries have been an
issue
for him.
Been killing him.
He's one of those. We talked about the Titans in the trade video, but they also acquired Chidobe Awuzie, who is a pretty good corner. Got him for $3 million or 3 years, $36 million deal.
And then to add on top of that, from Buffalo to the Rams, Tre'Davious White for 1 year, $8.5 million. Makes sense. Because, they need to move on. Tre'Davious White is almost 30.
Yeah, that's the Rams, because they also got Darius Williams from the Jaguars for 3 years, $22.5 million. They're getting some solid guys.
Yeah.
They're just, they've had some concerns, and most importantly, they're older. Jacksonville and the Bills are probably going to look to get younger. The Rams had a really young roster, so this is kind of getting some veterans in to start on that defense, which should really help. Sean Bunting to the Cardinals for $3 million or 3 years, $25 million, $24.5 million.
Shaquille Barrett, that was another one I wanted to cover. Tampa Bay, Miami, 1 year, $7 million. Makes sense. I think he will fit well in Miami. It's not too far either, so it's basically the same environment, so he doesn't have to change much. I liked Barrett on Tampa Bay. I think he'll fit well in Miami. There, Von Bell to Cincinnati. Von Bell's back.
Von Bell's back. Let's see, who else do we got? Mac Wilson to the Cardinals. Kenneth Murray to the Titans for $15.5 million over 2 years. Andrew Van Ginkel to the Vikings for 2 years, $20 million. Leonard Floyd to the 49ers for the same deal. Blake Cashman to the Vikings for 3 years, $22.5 million. So Frankie Louvu to the Commanders. He didn't make a lot of noise because he was in Carolina, but he's actually a solid linebacker.
I'm interested to see where he goes, how well he does, because
yeah,
he can't, a lot of these players can be good. It's just they have to be given that opportunity to flourish and everything. And I know a lot of these players are good, and then a lot of people are like, "Oh, see, they're not good. It was all hype." No, there's more things that move around than just a player. It's also schematics, coaching, who they're playing with.
Spitfire some guys. Kendall Fuller to the Dolphins.
I forgot Fuller went there.
For 2 years, $15 million. Byard to the Bears for 2 years, $15 million. Geno Stone to the Bengals for 2 years, $14 million. Again, they're not huge names.
They're filling up that space. Right
Byard to the Bears, though, is actually a solid one because I think Byard still has potential to be good.
Bears are needed in that department anyways, so
yeah,
they kind of needed to fill that up.
Cameron Curl to the Rams. actually could be a really good acquisition for them. He's 25. They're only paying him $9 million over 2 years.
Decently young.
He's-
He's got some gas in the tank.
And yeah, and he's actually good. Jordan Whitehead, who I only
Whitehead.
really know his name for getting 3 picks in a game. He's going to Tampa Bay for 2 years, $9 million. A bunch of when it comes to defensive backs, it's usually like smaller.
Small.
There's so many there that it's hard to keep up with every name.
Yeah.
Akuda, the Texans got Akuda and C.J. Henderson, I think. So 2 corners from the same class who
Yeah.
didn't really perform too well.
But they can be given that opportunity again.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's just give them the opportunity, give them the space, give them the scheme. They should perform. It's just
At least they have a chance to.
yeah, they do. It's just will they fit that scheme? That's the next question. So
Jeremy Chin to the Commanders. Commanders lose Cameron Curl but pick up Jeremy Chin, which is a pretty good acquisition. Tommy Townsend going to the Texans. Brendan McManus to Washington. Greg Joseph signing with the Packers.
oh yeah.
He played most recently with the Vikings.
Yep.
He's gonna be just like compete with Anders Carlson. He could start because Carlson had a rough year.
But we'll see. It depends on what the Packers do with that because they have options there. It's just who they're going to use in certain situations.
Yeah.
I think he might sit for a bit and then maybe get that starting.
Yeah, I mean, you might put him on like a practice squad. Having 2 kickers on an active roster is kind of tough when you have only 53-man rosters. So, Presley Harvin, the third, was the punter punter for the Steelers. He was, I forget what people called him. He's a bigger guy, and I thought he had.
guy,
Yeah,
I know what
he's
you're talking about.
he's actually like a solid punter too. He's unsigned currently, so I'm interested to see where he goes. I don't know why, but he got so much notoriety after his like first season there, and so I'm just interested to see where he goes. He had some good games punting, so there's a solid punter there.
It's not much in the kicker and punter department though. There's not been any movements there, at least big ones, I guess.
It's a position where people don't pay a lot of attention to the names, but
They don't pay attention because it's a quote unquote boring position, but it's also like a very important position as well.
oh yeah, it's another
Like,
good one.
people don't realize how important that position is. So like the fact that there isn't anybody moving, I can't tell if it's concerning or if it's just they have their guys.
Most of them don't. There's a lot of young guys coming in, so they're getting chances to stick around. The other thing with kickers, is especially kickers, they tend to move around preseason and regular season. They don't move around so much in the off season. It's either you earn yourself another contract or you sucked enough for them to get rid of you mid-season. Because again, it is an important position, and that's one where you can't sit and wait for the end of the season. So
I just keep remembering back to Nick Folk being dropped by like basically every team that he went to.
well, he re-signed with the Titans, so
Again? Oh my god. Titans are never gonna learn. He was trash.
well,
New England, he was trash. He was trash everywhere.
I mean that sums up most of the free agent signings as to at least this point. There's still some guys who are still available.
It's up in the air right now, but we'll see where they go.
Absolutely,
The fact that it's still not over is still baffling to me.
Yeah.
Normally things like it really gets hot like the first 2 weeks, and then it kind of cools down, and then there's a couple moves later, but normally it's just right away.
Yeah, but that's also kind of what we had. It's just there's so many big names moving around.
That's the other thing. It's just like,
There's
where's
some-
everybody going?
There was so much movement, and now we're sitting here and we're like, well, there's still so many left.
The
though.
only place that I know for certain that hasn't moved anybody to is the Cowboys. I
Yeah.
haven't heard a single name that is going to the Cowboys right now.
I believe they made one move to bring in someone else, to bring someone from the outside, which would be they signed Eric Kendricks to a $3 million deal, and that is the only guy that they have signed.
I was about to say re-signing will definitely come up, but because from what it looks like, I heard rumors today that Dak is only going to go through his last year of his contract right now.
He's expected to test free agency next year, so so much for going all in this year.
Huh?
Commanders took a lot of the Cowboys guys. They Dorrance Armstrong, Tyler Biadasz, Dante Fowler, and Noah Igbenogany all signed with the Commanders
Yeah.
after leaving the Cowboys, which I think is really funny. But yeah, Cowboys, a couple re-signings, one new acquisition in Eric Kendricks. Haven't really made any moves. They've let a lot of guys leave basically, and they've been just. I mean, they were the last team to make a move at all, even including bringing back their own guy, which their first move was bringing back their long snapper. And that's still, they were the last ones to make a move. That was their first move. So they've just, I don't know what they've been doing, but they've kind of just been sitting and doing nothing, twiddling their thumbs. They still got Michael Gallup, who probably won't, I don't think he'll come back, but
No, he might be moving on. Gallup is one of those names where it's like you can easily replace him, but he's also like a decent enough player. It's just like you don't have to, but you can trade him or let him walk.
didn't they actually release him?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything about Gallup yet, so maybe they have.
I think they released him. I think that's why he's a free agent. But yeah, Cowboys doing diddly squad. The only reason it's this funny, and I mean the thing they're being memed about is them going all in, but it's most importantly them being on the we're so close. We're keeping Mike McCarthy because we're so close, and we're like right there, and yet you didn't do anything to make the team better. You let guys leave, but you're keeping Mike McCarthy because you think you can win a Super Bowl this year, but you're letting Dak Prescott leave next year. So you're showing more faith in Mike McCarthy than any player on that team.
Yeah. And the thing is that as much as I like to dump all over Prescott and everything and call him a bad quarterback, he's not as bad as I make him out to be. He's a decent quarterback. I do think Prescott is a decent player. He's just... No, it's not because of the star on his helmet. It's just... It's funny to chew on the Cowboys a little bit. So
It is.
It's funny.
It'll-
The same way we like to clown on other teams, but
It'll be interesting seeing what the Cowboys do going forward. They've kind of drove themselves into the ground, unless they have something up their sleeve. But I'd be really surprised if they did. If not been,
they probably don't.
maybe Trey Lance is really good.
North Dakota State University.
Hey,
quarterback.
nothing wrong with North Dakota State. Just wrong with the fact that he hasn't done anything. But again, he wasn't horrible when he did play. He just had injury issues. But as of today, the free agent signings, the major ones at least,
They're done.
yep, that's free agent signings.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. There's going to be a lot more happening. Specifically, not just content-wise, but also us doing stuff, because I think after Easter I will definitely be done with a lot of stuff. I don't know. College is busy, but this summer I'll be around. So I don't know. We'll have to figure out what that's going to look like, but we'll see. So thank you all for joining us. We'll see you around.
Bye.